Welcome back. It's another beautiful day and I've got my coffee. So let's watch some stuff.
Disturbing facts from history. You wish you didn't know. One of the most horrifying true stories you'll ever hear has to be that of Russia's Cannibal Island. In the summer of 1933, thousands of Russian citizens were rounded up by police and sent to live on a tiny, swampy island in Siberia's Oba River. The plan was for the deportees to construct a special settlement as part of Joseph Stalin's new social engineering plan to rid Moscow of all undesirable elements. In May, the first 3,000 prisoners were dropped off by barge on Nadzino Island. They were given no tools, food or shelter. These were mostly city dwellers who had no farming experience or any skills for surviving outdoors. In a short time, the weather conditions quickly deteriorated with rain, snow and freezing winds sweeping over the island. Even still, more barges kept coming, dropping off even more people. Guards patrolled the icy waters, threatening to shoot anyone who tried to escape. For a while, every 4 or 5 days, they would drop off sacks of moldy rye flour as the only food source on the island. The inhabitants would take the flour to the river, mix it with water and drink it. Eating it dry was nearly impossible. Accidentally breathing the flour in its original state could be suffocating. Early on, many people lost their lives by freezing. Some burned alive by sleeping too close to the fires. Others became ill from drinking the brackish water. Things grew far worse for the survivors once starvation set in. Soon, the strongest of the island's prisoners began hunting the weakest members for food. Rumors quickly spread back in Moscow that the island's prisoners had begun eating each other. The experiment ended just 13 weeks after it had begun. Soldiers were sent to evacuate the island. What they found when they got there is beyond a nightmare. Corpses stripped of their flesh littered the tall grass. Skeletal limbs and human organs were discovered hanging from trees. One woman who had been transferred to another camp was missing her calves. That's because some of the prisoners cut them off while she was alive. She only survived because the frigid temperatures kept her alive. Of the 6,700 prisoners brought to Nadzino Island, 4,000 went missing or were killed. The events on Russia's Cannibal Island were covered up until 1988, when secret records were finally released to the public.
Well, that's not absolutely awful or anything, is it? Oh my goodness. Could you imagine if that's just what people did? Sent prisoners to an island and are like, here you go. Best of luck. That's like some Hunger Games type stuff right there. Not even Hunger Games, because they're actually trying to eat them. Ew. That's gross. All right, well, that's a little piece of history I didn't know. I don't know that I needed to know it, and now that I do, so do you. Hey, I just wanted to take a second to thank you so much for joining me for today's coffee talk. If you're having a good time, I'd hope you'd consider hitting that subscribe button and come back tomorrow because I'm making a new video every day.
Update on this story about students licking feet for a fundraiser. Originally, it was reported that the students were licking the teacher's toes for the fundraiser, but it actually turns out that the teachers approved for the students to do that to each other. Which, by the way, to me is just as bad because adults watched it happen. Another trigger warning for the video. Everything is kind of blurred out, but I still think that it's disturbing. It turns out they were licking peanut butter off of each other's toes. Again, somebody from the school administration approved this. Adults watched this happen. And to me, it's just overall completely disgusting. It's unhygienic. It's giving, why would an adult want to watch that? And people are defending it saying, well, they raised a lot of money. Cool. Did it occur to anybody that you had kids doing that action for money? How did not one adult at any point say, hey, let's not do this?
What the actual F? That is wrong. They're going to be traumatized forever. That was my initial reaction. As it should be, right? Then I did some research, and it doesn't necessarily make it any better, but the fact of the matter is these are 9th through 12th grade students on both sides of this particular event. And they're doing a fundraiser for Not Your Average Joe Coffee, who employs adults or, well, individuals with developmental disabilities. Now, while that's a worthy cause, I think some adults should have stepped in and say, no, I don't think this is appropriate, because all of these challenges were created and signed up for by these 9th through 12th grade students. Still very disturbing. I think it's probably because we are adding a sexualization to the licking of toes, while the children see it as doing something really nasty, not necessarily a fetishist. So I guess it kind of smooths it out a little bit. It's still gross. It's still wrong. But I understand. I mean, this is what happens when you leave events like this in the hands of children. They come up with some weird crap, don't they?
So I just got yelled at for asking a very reasonable question. So I'm applying to go somewhere, and I just wanted to know, are there accommodations for people who struggle with time blindness and being on time, you know? And then the person I was with interrupted and acted like I was asking something else, and then when we were done, they actually started yelling at me and saying that accommodations for time blindness doesn't exist, and if you struggle with being on time, you'll never be able to get a job. You know, provided you're trying your absolute best to be there. And then they're like, your stupid generation wants to destroy the workplace. And yeah, I think that a culture where workers are just cut off because they struggle with being on time, when there's other solutions that we can look to, I think that just anybody who thinks it's okay to just treat people like that, yeah, that culture needs to be dismantled. And then I asked that person, how can you feel good about yourself upholding this kind of system? And then to think I'm entitled. No, if people think it's okay to treat others like this, that's entitlement.
This is a double-edged sword, because I know there is a symptom of ADHD that does cause individuals to be easily distracted, where they don't realize what time it is, or how much time has passed while they were in their distracted state. But at the same time, a lot of the newer generation that's finally entering the workforce, they want all kinds of special accommodations, all kinds of crazy, ridiculous accommodations, and now it's time blindness. Oh, I can't be on time. Ever? Maybe, you should wake up earlier. There are things that you can do to prepare yourself to be on time. Even individuals that have ADHD can get in a routine, set alarms, and make, efforts to do this, not expect specific accommodations. People who know that they have an issue work regularly to get beyond that. And this new generation just wants to have everybody else cater to their issue rather than trying to fit into society and be a productive member of it. Let me know what you think. This is really controversial. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Do you think that it's Gen Z just being lazy asses, or do you think that it's actual, medical condition?
The last tribe on Earth to use what some believe is the most ancient hunting technique of all.
That was the San people of the Kalahari Desert in Africa, who used the most ancient yet the most terrifying hunting technique that was passed down to us by our ancestors. Now, we all know that every single animal has adaptations that have allowed them to survive to the modern day. For instance, we all know that cheetahs are the fastest land mammal on Earth. Sharks have a limitless supply of teeth that they use to tear their prey apart. But what about humans? Now, I know what you're saying. Our brains, obviously. Easily, we are the smartest creatures on the planet. But, be that as it may, if I was to plop any one of us in the middle of Africa and told you to survive, regardless of how smart you are, how many PhDs you got, you're probably not going to make it. So what other adaptations besides our intelligence gave humans the edge over animals, and more specifically, our prey? Running. Human beings are easily the best long-distance runners in the entire world. Now, this is due to a few different reasons. Number one, the ability to sweat. Now, short of monkeys, apes, hippos, and horses, human beings are the only creatures that can actually sweat, which allows us to cool as we run. And also, being bipedal, our tendons and our muscles have adapted to, when we hit the ground, kind of spring forward, something that four-legged animals just don't have. So how do we use this adaptation? It is called persistence hunting. We would literally run our prey down. Now, in unison with our brains, what humans would do would get up, find a prey, and literally run it to exhaustion. They would run, the animal would get tired, and then we would catch up. It would run, it would get tired, and we would catch up. And we'd repeat this process for sometimes up to 8 to 12 hours before an animal would ultimately fall to exhaustion, allowing us to go in. This is actually best demonstrated by the Sand people of the Kalahari in Africa, who still use persistence hunting up until the last decade. And from a prey's perspective, how absolutely terrifying must that be? With the ability to track and find hiding places and know the layout of the land, there was literally no escape. They would just run and run and run. And no matter how far you ran, you were never going to escape.
And then the kudu collapses from sheer exhaustion.
That video was a nice little change of pace. I had no idea that hippos and horses actually have the ability to sweat. That is completely new to me. As far as this hunting technique, I think it's fantastic that there's still tribes using the human body for what it was designed, and that is endurance. A lot of people these days, they don't have that anymore, especially living in the city. You have no need to have to do that. So yeah, being plucked out of, our city homes and thrown into this inhospitable environment, we wouldn't survive because we don't run. I mean, me personally, I don't run. I don't run unless something is chasing me. And even then, it's negotiable. Depending on how bad it's going to be, when something catches me, that'll determine whether or not I run. But yeah, the evolution of the human body is quite fantastic. And now it's changing to be something else because of how we live, how we hunt, which we don't, how we farm, how we feed ourselves now. It's completely different. And we're slowly moving into a new evolution of human.
People wonder why we need a union at Starbucks, and I am literally about to quit. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but like, I really want to. I almost walked out today, and I'm crying in the back room right now, and I almost cried on the floor. It's just, I'm like a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week, and then on weekends they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday. I'm like 3.5 hours into my shift. There's so many customers, and we have 4 people on the floor all day. Only 5 people were put on the schedule, and somebody had to call out, and there are 4 people running the whole store, and there's so many customers, and there's possibly scheduled 5 people. We only have 13 people employed at this store, and there's so many customers, and they're good. We don't have fair scheduling. Managers don't care about us. Our manager was supposed to come in this weekend, and he took himself off the schedule, so he wouldn't be able to be held accountable for calling out. He just literally tore down the schedule that he was scheduled on and put up a new schedule where he wasn't on the schedule. Also, he couldn't have even seen that he was scheduled in the first place because he didn't want to be held accountable for not wanting to come in. They don't want to help us. We need a union because this can't happen. This can't happen. We need fair scheduling. We need managers to hold themselves accountable for helping their workers. They refuse to turn mobile orders off. We need the liberty to be able to do that because there's so many mobile orders and I need to get through all of them. And then people are yelling at me because I don't have their orders ready and they don't know what to do. I can't do it. And a customer was misgendering me today, like really badly. I didn't have their order ready. And so they were just like talking to each other and they're like, she's clearly incompetent. I have a full mustache and beard. I don't get accommodations for being neurodivergent. I don't, like I can't use, people get mad at me for using my sick time. I don't even know what to do anymore. I'm like at my wit's end with this job. I really am. I just want to be alone.
I don't have a whole lot of happy things to say about this particular video. It drives me up a wall. It's an 8-hour shift. Welcome to the real world. We have to do that 5 days a week. It's reality. And you're complaining about how there's only 4 people there, but you're in the bathroom crying, leaving all these other people, these only 3 other people out there to take care of this job that you applied for. Now, I understand you're neurodivergent and you can't handle multitasking, but you signed up for this job. You applied for this job, you interviewed, you got the job, and you started working there. That is your responsibility. If you know that you're neurodivergent, perhaps you should find a job that doesn't require you to multitask and serve the masses. It's pretty simple. And I'm sorry your manager called off. Boo-hoo. It happens. You know what we do when we work a job? We suck it up or we quit and we find something we can do. Well, that was a whole lot of fun. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate your time and I hope to see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Here's my cutting room floor. 3, 2, 1. So if that happened in the 30s, then it sounds like somebody took a page out of Stalin's history book. But then again, it wasn't known until like the 80s. Still, they're close quarters. They had to know. They had to know. He was like, yes, that's a great idea. Don't know why he sends French. I'm sorry. Well, that's not absolutely awful or anything, is it? That was my initial reaction, as it should be, as is expected, right? And if for some reason I can't be on time, I lose a job, which means I lose money. And that's the way the economy works. That is so disturbing. Oh my gosh. But people are sick. That is disturbing. I know there's a lot of not happy videos today. It's not fun. It's not fun, but it's good to learn things. No, disgusting as all get out. That is intriguing. I had no idea that hippos and horses sweated. First of all, sweated. They sweat. I didn't know they sweat. It's good to know. No, it's not good to know. You don't talk. Welcome to the real world. Now there's only 3 people working because you're in the bathroom crying. You're totally helping out the situation, aren't you? That's jacked up. So there's your problem. It's you. All right, another muddy day. Day 4.